Why hello there, my name's Arkthepenguin, and as you know, I play a lot of video games. Whether it be on PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, or even No! No! If you couldn't tell, I typically don't play many PC games. If a game I'm interested in is PC exclusive, I usually hope, pray, and make sacrifices for a console port, unless it's like a super obscure indie game that's 100% not coming to console. And while the game I'm thinking of is far from obscure, it's still only on PC and mobile devices as of right now. There are some rumors of it coming to Switch, which would be cool, but for now, Geometry Dash by ROBTOP is only on mobile devices and computers. Personally, I played the game on computer, despite the fact I was a mobile player for a long time. Across both platforms, I have completed many levels, including every single one of the main levels with all 3 coins. And while now that's far from an incredible achievement even for me, at the time I was super stoked and proud of myself, regardless of my opinion of the level I had completed. And that's what I'm here to do today, share my opinion on every single main Geometry Dash level by ranking them from my least favorite to my favorite. And with 2.2 on the horizon, this is pretty good timing. I mean, we only have like, what, 3 years left? And please, keep in mind this is my opinion, not yours. So if you disagree with me, feel free to do so in a respectable manner. Or shank me. Alright, well that's enough of that. Let's talk about the funny cube game. Man, life is so fun. Who needs charity when you could talk about Electrodynamix? This is easily one of my most controversial gaming opinions. Electrodynamix is abhorrent. It did introduce speed changes, I will give it that, but other than that, I hate this level with a passion. Electrodynamix is like if the average Twitter user was a Geometry Dash level. It is the most unbalanced thing you will ever encounter. Like 1 second you're doing this, and then you're doing this garbage. Plus there's so much unfair crap that kills you. Like every single part in this level has at least one super awkward jump. It's choke point central. And who can forget Electrodynamix's motto? If one choke point doesn't kill you, the next one probably will. And even after my skill increased drastically, I still had tons of problems with this level, more so than any other ROBTOP levels. Even the visuals are weirdly inconsistent. Whenever you think you figured out this level's style, it pulls a complete 180 on you. Seriously, what is this level's theme? Sadism? I also believe that ROBTOP chose the worst parts of the song for the level. The song in its entirety is actually pretty good, but the cut version for this level, in my opinion, sucks. You could say that the only reason I hate this level is because I'm bad, and maybe you're right. But at least someone has to agree with me that some parts of this level would fit right into a 3-star, and other parts into a 10-star. Electrodynamix is my personal least favorite of all the ROBTOP levels. And maybe that'll change one day, but for now, it's staying right where it is. This is more than likely the most predictable thing on the list due to how much hate this level gets. And unfortunately, I have to agree. Since it gets so much hate, why don't we start off with the positive? Notice how I said the positive instead of positives. I will say that the gameplay is definitely balanced. I never felt like the gameplay got super difficult out of nowhere. It definitely stayed consistent in terms of difficulty and quality. However, the quality being consistent is not a good thing at all. When I was a youngin' of only 9 years old, this level nearly drove me to tears because of how annoying it was. The worst part is easily the 70% upside down cube. That part alone nearly made me quit the game because I just couldn't do it. My fingers weren't fast enough. It's not my fault I have arthritis. This entire level just feels like a worse version of Bass After Bass in every way for me. The song also sucks. The beginning is okay at best, but then it all goes severely downhill. And while the color variation is nice, even the visuals suck for 1.0 standards. If I didn't have the vendetta I have for Electrodynamix, Can't Let Go would easily be at the bottom. At one point, this was my least favorite level in the entire game due to the way it introduced the Upside Down portal. And how does Dryout do this? Well, arguably in the most annoying way possible. In other levels, when you're the upside down cube, it usually flows really well. You don't even notice you're upside down. But in Dryout, it's treated like this substantial thing. And when I got there for the first time, I got super anxious. This level also introduced what I like to call upside down gotcha jumps. Gotcha jumps are hard to explain, but I know one when I see one. Gotcha jumps are when you think you aren't supposed to jump, but you actually are. And then the next jump, you think you are supposed to jump, but you aren't. These are annoying in normal gravity. But in Dryout, they're upside down, which for me makes it it's infinitely harder to see what I'm supposed to do. These are the bane of my existence, and that's the biggest reason why it's here. Other than that, the song is okay until it goes all ruckus on you. And visually, it's a 1.0 level, so nothing special. I will say, the colors Rob chose do not blend well together at all. However, the main reason it is where it is the infuriating level design. Jumper to me is just better dry out gameplay wise. There are still tons of gotcha jumps, but it's way more tolerable here. I think that's probably because not only are you more experienced with them in general, but also because Jumper is a harder level, so you'll more than likely spend more time in practice mode. This does wonders for dealing with the gotcha jumps, and both the ship parts are pretty fun, and they're probably my favorite parts of the level. This level introduced the upside down ship in a much better way than Tryout introduced the upside down cube. In Jumper, when your ship goes upside down, you're like, oh, I guess I'm upside down now. In Tryout, you have 5 anxiety attacks all at once. And visually, it's an old level, but it's actually okay for an older level. So if the gameplay is decent, and it's visually okay for the time, then why is it lower? Well, the answer to that question is the song. In my opinion, this is one of, if not the worst song Rob has chosen for a level. And those who say you can't dislike a level just because of the song, I can dislike a level for any reason I want, just like you can. Also, I would argue that Geometry Dash is a music-based game, so if you don't like the music you're listening to, it can diminish the experience. And for me, it definitely did. Okay, all crappy back on track jokes aside, this level is actually pretty decent. The song is good, the aesthetic is good for a 1.0 level, and the gameplay is solid. However, while every aspect of this level is decent, it's also a mind-numbingly boring level in every way. Out of every single one of the official levels, this is the one I easily got the most bored playing. And this is entirely because of how stupidly easy it is. I can't even think of anything else to say in this segment. That's how boring back on track is. Even while I'm complaining about it, I'm falling asleep. To me, base after base is just a better yet more forgettable version of Can't Let Go. In fact, it's almost unanimously considered to be easily one of the most forgettable ROBTOP levels. Even when I was writing the outline for this video's scripts, I completely forgot that this level even existed. Every ROBTOP level has their own gimmick. Back on Track introduced jump pads. Jumper introduced the upside down ship. Can't Let Go introduced suicidal thoughts. Base after base introduced black. Just the color black, which Can't Let Go also has. I'm sorry, but just making a couple of dark parts, in my opinion, isn't enough of a new thing to warrant it being considered this level's gimmick. And since Can't Let Go, which also carries the same pitch black mechanic as base after base, is so infamous, it's way more memorable. And that's kind of sad, because base after base is actually a good level in almost every aspect. Of course, there is some garbage, but it is really decent. However, every aspect is far more forgettable than enjoyable. In fact, studies show that this level is single-handedly responsible for dementia, in general. People will not be happy with me putting this above Electrodynamix. Well, to be fair, people will be pissed off with me putting most levels above Electrodynamix. But this one especially will generate some controversy. I kinda like xStep, especially the ball and ship parts. Specifically, the ball parts are super fun, especially the first ball. But the cube parts suffer tragically from dated syndrome. It also has the most bugs in any official pre-2.0 levels. The song also sucks, like really badly. In fact, I'd say it's one of my least favorites of the official songs. However, while the cube parts are dated, they're really satisfying to pull off, and even more satisfying to pull everything off, especially when you're just starting out. I played GD Light first, so to me, xStep is the hardest level. Not literally, but in my heart. Now moving on to the actual hardest ROBTOP level. I have a love-hate relationship with Deadlocked. The song is really good, and the gameplay is actually really well balanced in my opinion. But as stated previously, balanced does not mean good. When I say balanced, I mean that most of the parts of the level have difficulty that lines up with the other parts. However, most of the parts in Deadlocked are utter garbage. There are some really fun parts, such as the first wave, but for every fun part, there's a 79% moving block ship. Plus, Deadlocked is the king of terrible transitions, such as this one, and this one, and of course, who can forget this one? And finally, the visuals. At certain times, this level can look pretty good, and at other times, it can look absolutely horrid. There really isn't a cohesive theme for this level. I also hold a grudge against this level because it glitched out when I was far, which caused me to die at 98. That will traumatize an 8-year-old. How I feel playing Deadlocked is how I imagine war veterans feel watching movies about whatever war they were in. Is that an insensitive comparison? Maybe. But my 98% death on Deadlocked was the greatest tragedy since the fall of man. Ah yes, what people would consider to be the most iconic part of Geometry Dash. Yes, it's incredibly easy. Yes, most people beat it in under 50 attempts, unless you're Kai, who took like 2,000 for some reason. Yes, we've heard the song a million times, but to be honest, the Stereo Madness is honestly a pretty fun level. The song, despite the absurd amount of times I've heard it, fills me with nostalgia even to this day. Like I said before, the gameplay is super easy, but unlike Back on Track, my enjoyment of the level was not diminished by it. Even though it can get a little boring, specifically at the first ship, Stereo Madness keeps you way more engaged than Back on Track, and I'll always have a soft spot for this level. It's literally the Geometry Dash level. I guarantee you, if you were to take a poll and ask 1,000 people to name the first Geometry Dash level that came into their head, Stereo Madness would be number one by a long shot, with Mission Lashonda at a close second. Yes, that's an actual level, and it is glorious. Much like Can't Let Go, this level gets a lot of crap, but unlike Can't Let Go, I actually think that despite its shortcomings, Geometrical Dominator is actually a pretty good level. The main part that people criticize is the memorization part at 70%, which I actually kind of like. I've never minded memorization levels in any game, really, and the argument could be made that GD is an auto-scroller, so that sentiment doesn't apply to it. However, I would disagree, mainly because of the game's practice mode feature. Without that feature, Geometrical Dominator would be near the bottom, no question. But with it, I find the memorization part to be a welcome addition to the level. Plus, in my opinion, it's the best looking part in any ROBTOP level by far. The song also goes super hard at certain points, especially the memory part. And maybe I just have nostalgia from when Isaac, Kai, and I used to call it the Teen Titans Go level, but I don't care. Geometrical Dominator is not as bad as people say it is. Sure, it killed my entire family and started the Third World War because of the stupid geometrically dominated thing, but it's just misunderstood, like lupus. This level is hideous. One of the worst looking ROBTOP levels by far. Does it look good compared to Roadkill? Kind of, but it still looks like the physical embodiment of regret. Gameplay-wise, it's really good in certain aspects, but lacks in others. What is the point of that last cube? Like, seriously. Well, if the visuals are garbage and the gameplay is nothing special, why is it higher on this ranking? Well, the answer to that question is the electronic-style music phenomenon of Fingerbang by MDK. If you couldn't tell by the two main songs I used for my outro, Critical Hit and Absolute Zero, and the outro song that we used for a million years over at Spectrum, my group YouTube channel, I like MDK. In fact, I would say that MDK is my personal favorite electronic artist. And Fingerbang is not only one of my favorite MDK songs, but probably one of my favorite songs ROBTOP has picked for any of the main levels. Like, it's up there. This level also introduced Isaac's personal favorite game mode, the Spider. However, I just see it as Ball with an edgy personality. Unfortunately, this level just missed out on the top 10, but it's still a great time. Still looks ugly though. But it has a great personality, I swear! It introduced the ball. Moving on. Okay, of course that's not it, but that is the main reason. I love the ball so much. Like, it's one of my favorite modes. Am I wrong for having this opinion? I don't know. That's the red dot on my forehead. And not only did this level show the world the power of balls, it also has some pretty good ball gameplay and gameplay in general. The only boring part is at the end of the ship, because nothing really interesting happens. But other than that, the gameplay is really solid. I guess it's also a little unbalanced, but compared to other levels, it's really not that unbalanced. And the song is also really good. It provides this serene atmosphere that no other ROBTOP level has. And while it's not as universally loved as other levels, it's one of my personal favorites. I will never understand why people complain about cycles. Yeah, I said that at a women's rights protest once. I got slapped. I still have no idea why. I don't know if this is controversial, but I'm a pretty big Clubstep fan. If I went in depth with all categories, we'd be here for a while, so I'm just gonna speedrun this. Gameplay, good, but really annoying at quite a few parts, specifically the weird ship gameplay. Visuals, okay for the time. Song, iconic. And that's why I like Clubstep so much. It's easily the second most iconic level in the entire game. At least from my point of view, it stands right behind Stereo Madness. And if you disagree, let me see if I can sway you with this. The very first ever Extreme Demon was Ice Carbon Diablo X, which used both the Clubstep song and the Clubstep style. Tartarus, which was top 1 for 16 months, also uses the Clubstep song and style. Step to Hell, Diabolic Clubstep, Silent Club, and many more. Even the current top 1, Acheron, takes a lot of inspiration from Clubstep. And that's why I like Clubstep so much. It basically shaped what would become the hardest difficulty. Does almost every level that was inspired by Clubstep give me severe arthritis just by its mere existence? Yes, but think about what a world without Clubstep would look like. Huh. Of all the quote-unquote easy levels, Polargeist has always reigned supreme for me. For the longest time, Polargeist was my all-time favorite level. It kept me engaged the entire time I was playing, and even now, it's far from a boring experience, despite its easy difficulty. And part of the reason of why that is because of the new mechanic this level added, which became a staple of the game. Orbs. The song is also really enjoyable, especially anytime it calms down. The only thing keeping this level from achieving true greatness is that it's just good in every category. Polargeist doesn't excel at anything in particular. It's just a solid level. Nothing more, nothing less. Oh god, this is really gonna piss people off. Yes, I'm putting Vertigo the jump level above Electrodynamix. Sue me. Time Machine has a ton of points in it that would be considered unfair by most people. Fortunately, I am not most people.
It's Mickey.
Are there a lot of blind jumps and crap like that? Yeah. This level also introduced one of my least favorite mechanics in the entire game, being the mirror portal, which, I kid you not, hurts my eyes. And it definitely made me mad, especially when I succumbed to the unfair parts. However, while playing the level can be annoying, it's actually really well balanced and pretty fun at certain points. And for whatever reason, this is the only level that uses the mirror portal that doesn't hurt my eyes. It's probably because I've played this level so much that I've gotten used to it, or because I've been blind this whole time. And finally, the song is easily one of my favorite electronic songs of all time. In fact, I like the song so much that I've chosen to beat Cadrega City as my first Extreme Demon. And by chosen, I mean Isaac Kai and I did an RNG thing and it chose Cadrega City. Time Machine can be infuriating, but I still love this flawed level. It's like a person. You hate it until it's funny. Wait, what did this level introduce? Spiked spikes? Breakable blocks? More invisible shit? Well, even though Electroman Adventures didn't introduce anything too amazing in my opinion, it's still a wildly fun level. It is a bit too easy for the insane difficulty in my opinion, but that's not a huge deal. There are still some tricky parts for sure, but nothing the average player can't handle without losing a couple of limbs. The song is actually pretty decent. Not the best ever, but it's still a good time to listen to. And I've always felt like this was one of the first levels Topola made that actually had a different feel than other levels. Electroman Adventures actually feels electric. The only flaws I find are its easy difficulty and the lack of at least one new interesting thing. Also Mirror Portal. I don't like that. A beloved level for a good reason, Hexagon Force is surely one of the highest quality official levels in the entire game. It does a fantastic job at teaching the player the new duel mechanic, while simultaneously introducing slopes, which would go on to be used in countless levels. The slopes would also be the catalyst for the wave game mode, which is widely regarded as the best game mode in Geometry Dash. And for the most part, the gameplay is relatively well balanced, other than the dual mini-ball at 60%. I remember that part giving 11-year-old me a stroke trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. The song is pretty decent as well. Not my favorite, but still decent. Its visual style is actually really good. It's so interesting that of all color combinations, green and purple is the one that Rob went with. A color combination that would be passed down to the legendary Thomas Echnical. In my opinion, there is no straight-up bad part of Hexagon Force. There are some iffy parts though. For example, I feel the way the duel is introduced can be a little bit intimidating. Very similar to that of how the Upside Down portal was introduced in Dryout. However, Hexagon Force's duel gameplay is far from annoying to learn, unlike some other levels. For me, Clutterfunk is in the same vein as Cyclone, Emerald, and Sparkling. Why is it so cool to me? Not even the guy who knows. For so long, Clutterfunk was my all-time favorite level. I found it to be utterly bizarre and magical in terms of how it played and its style. But as time has gone on, I've been able to see its flaws more clearly. There are a lot of choke points very similar to xStep, but although it shares quite a few similarities with xStep, in my opinion, it's just better in every possible way. The song is one of my favorites in the entire game because it's just cool. The gameplay is weird, but in a good way. There are quite a few blind jumps, which I normally can't stand in levels, but for some reason, it works here. It also introduced the mini portal, which is one of my favorite mechanics to be introduced. At least to me, the mini portal changed how levels can be played almost as much as speed changes did. This level is just a cooler xStep in every way for me. And even though it's not my favorite level anymore, it's still one of my absolute favorites, and I'm still ashamed of it to this day. Theory of Everything's song is my favorite song in the main game by a long shot, and it's not even close. I will say, some of the stereotypical dubstep parts are a bit annoying. It's not that I dislike the dubstep in it, I just think that the highlights of the song are the piano and violin parts. Those parts are so beautiful, and do something that I never thought was possible to do in a Geometry Dash level by providing atmosphere. The ending to the song is my favorite part of it. You know, that calm piano solo that reminds you that you're safe and have beaten the level. It gives you this sense of security and relief. And I know that's not the ending to the actual song by DJ Nate, but it is to the cut version by ROBTOP. A word that has always meant a lot to me when it comes to music is pitch. A lot of the time when I like a song, I mess with the pitch to see if I can make it sound a little bit better. For example, Geralt of Rivia is one of my favorite pieces of music, but if I change the pitch just a little bit, it becomes more enjoyable to me. But with something like Ori and the Blind Forest's entire soundtrack, every song in that game is already at the perfect pitch. So when I mess with it, it sounds all weird. Theory of Everything is one of those songs. It's not one of my all-time favorite pieces of music, but it's definitely one of my all-time favorite pieces of electronic music. Oh, and the level's also pretty fun too, I guess. Oh, and UFO. I like UFO. Also, did I mention that the level looks really good for a 1.5 level? Purple is one of my favorite colors, and it meshes together with the song so well. The gameplay also fits the level very nicely. I will say, the second coin's placement should be considered a war crime. Can you imagine doing that as a 6-year-old on an iPhone 2? Ah yes, the sequel to the level I just talked about. In all honesty, the two Theory of Everything levels are almost the same in quality. The only thing that's a step down in this one is the song. It's not bad at all, in fact I quite like it, but it just can't top the original. The real star of this show is the gameplay and aesthetic. The gameplay is way better. In fact, it might be single-handedly the best balanced of the original levels. Theory of Everything 2 is probably the most fun I've had with the ROBTOP level, other than my #1 spot, of course. Every cube part, great. Every ship part, great. Every ball part, memory. Every UFO part, sad. Every wave part, frickin' great. Whenever I fall off of this game, which is a lot due to the absence of updates, I always practice on both this level and my #1. And even then, most of the time I'm just playing it for fun and just so happen to leave better than I was before. And the visuals are top notch for Rob. Obviously there are some crappy looking parts, but the good parts look absolutely fantastic. And there's one part that provides this lovely atmosphere that the first level did at the 70% cube. And at least in my opinion, atmosphere is a very rare thing to find in a Geometry Dash level. I don't really have a personal connection to this level. It's just a good level. But my #1, I can safely say, at least for a Geometry Dash level, is something special. Go ahead, get your lowbrow blomp jokes out of the way, and let me talk about the best thing ROBTOP has made in this game. There's just something about this level that just works for me. Could it be the amazing song by Waterflame that's up there as one of my all-time favorite electronic songs? Could it be that it introduced the Wave, the best game mode in the entire game? Could it be because the aesthetic is all cool and futuristic and junk? Could it be that despite the level's easy difficulty, it still finds a way to be just as fun as a hard level? Maybe it's because the gameplay flows like butter. Maybe it's all of the above. And even when you're past the level of difficulty this level presents, like myself, you still feel pretty cool whenever you beat the level, and it's all because of that satisfying.
So there you go. That's every main ROBTOP level ranked. Believe me, I know I don't have the most popular opinions, especially with Electrodynamix being at the bottom. But overall, I think this is a pretty decent list. And I have to be honest, I did go back and forth quite a bit with the top 3, especially with Theory of Everything and Blast Processing. But in the end, much like Disease, gameplay reigned supreme. And in the end, shouldn't gameplay reign supreme for all video games, especially a game like Geometry Dash? Hey, will you look at that? It's time to figure out what we're going to be ranking next. All right, next ranking is going to be white people. Good luck, Aeon.